Good morning, all. This is Jack from Charting the Markets, and this is the Bigger Picture webinar for the morning of Wednesday, the 10th of June. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing and learn from it, transfer it to your own charts, and I'm not here to shoot trading signals. This is a video for paying subscribers at Charting the Markets or Subset.com. Charting CTM The Bigger Picture, .subset.com. It's published on YouTube after a delay of a week. All right, great. Let's have a look at ES, where we've got, on Sunday I was talking about the possibility we'd see a right shoulder form on Monday, and we saw a right shoulder form on Monday, and it broke down yesterday with a target in the 70-75 area. Is it going to make it? Well, I don't know. But so far we've had a fairly spectacular run of the historical stats delivering every day last week and so far this week. This week we were forecast to have an up day on Monday, which we saw, and a down day on Tuesday, which we saw, and then we're forecast to have a down day again today, and then 3 bullish leaning days for the next 3 days. Now, those don't need to deliver, of course, and I don't expect these historical stats to deliver every day, but nonetheless, they may deliver. If so, we've only got 1 more day's downside here, so it'll be interesting to see what happens today. Do we have a promising start for it? Well, at the time of writing, ES is down 80 handles after yesterday's rally, so we haven't reached yesterday's lows yet, but we're getting closer, and we will see whether or not we can make it down to the target. We've had it's promising from a war point of view. Obviously, there is an Apache helicopter costing 50 to 100 million, depending on spec, which was shot down by an Iranian drone, which was $40,000. Shahed drone, which is about $40,000. So, which is one of the things about asymmetric warfare nowadays, of course. But the US retaliated last night. The Irans very much retaliated after that. And so we will see whether that settles down today. In the meantime, oil is down. ES is down and oil is up from the lows yesterday, having bounced fairly immediately afterwards and recovered much of what it gave back yesterday. But it's still looking kind of like a bear flag from yesterday's low. So watching that with interest. So on ES, we had a head and shoulders breakdown with a target in the 70-75 area. On NQ, we had a head and shoulders breakdown with a target in the 26-725 area. On RTY, we didn't have a pattern, but I'm thinking if we see a significant decline, then we could see a move down to this possible head and shoulder neckline and big support level in the 27-25 area. Looking at YM, we've got a head and shoulders which is broken down with a target in the 49,300 area. Again, pretty close to a couple of big levels. On DAX, not sure what's happening here. No longer looks like a bull flag. The STX, yesterday morning, this bull flag was breaking up and it retested the highs. We've now got a possible level top set up here on ESTX. And Nikkei, we still haven't actually quite made it to the head and shoulder target down in the 62,710 area, but we've now got a larger head and shoulders, which is trying to break down with a target in the 58,000 area. Watching that with interest today, but I would note the next 3 days after today, lean bullish. All right, let's have a look at these on the bigger picture charts. And all right, now we saw a rally basically which took us up to the daily middle band, which is a very obvious place to see a rally go to, and then a fail there. So when we start getting back over the daily middle band, of course, that opens up a retest of the highs. In the meantime, the RSI 5 sell signal has made target, and the RSI 14 sell signal has fixed. On the daily chart here, we actually managed to reach the 3SD lower band yesterday. Now, that's not moving, and I've got to say, it's a fairly unusual thing to break much below it. Normally, these things tend to need a bit of a warm-up before you see a move that size. So, am I skeptical about reaching that 70-75 target today? I am. I think it probably needs more of a pause before it reaches it, and it needs the middle band to start rolling over, and for things to start and for the bands to start expanding. So far, that process has not visibly started. On the hourly chart, no current divergence. I am wrong. On the hourly chart, this is a possible RSI 14 sell signal brewing. And that would be pretty bullish. And the 15-minute chart, we've still got an RSI 14 buy signal fix. So overall, what do I rate the chances at here? It's going to take a lot to take SPX down to the target here in 70-75 area. We would need to get through the 3SD lower band, and historically, that takes a while. Generally speaking, by the time you start seeing big moves down, you've been seeing it widen. You've been seeing the daily middle band turn down. Touching the 3SD lower band tends to be a pretty good buy level, and it was yesterday. Chances are, my feeling is that it's going to be a buy level if we reach it today. So I'm not really looking for much more from this. We shall see. War news may be awful, of course. We will see. All right, looking at the cues, we've actually got a possible RSI 5 buy signal brewing now, which is interesting. Of course, we've got some big IPOs coming up. I mean, I think the market might get indigestion, but I mean, we've got SpaceX on Friday, which I'm not participating in because, frankly, I think SpaceX is. I don't think it would be a mistake to call it a con, but it's certainly, unlikely ever to be worth what the current valuation is putting at. So we will see how that goes. But we've got a possible RSI 5 buy signal brewing here. There was a minute. Right, do we have an RSI 5 buy signal brewing here on SPX? We've got a slight divergence here. We could make that a slightly better one today, but it's not going to be a great looking buy signal, but it could be a daily buy signal. It might be a weak one. So we could see a full size one here with a bit more downside today on the cues. On the hourly charts on the cues, we've got an RSI 14 buy signal brewing. Unless we go down much further today, that will probably survive. In terms of the 3SD lower band, we didn't reach that on on the cues on this way down. But obviously, on SPX we did. So we could go a bit lower here, but I'm skeptical about making these head and shoulder targets. On the RSI 14 buy signal, on the 15-minute chart, that is still open. All right, looking at Dia. Dia has been pretty solid and has been the strongest here. It has yesterday reached the daily middle band. This tends to be a pretty good support level, of course. The weak RSI 5 sell signal has still not made target, and it also hasn't delivered anything in terms close to getting to target. The RSI 14 sell signal has finally reached on Dia the possible near miss target. 15-minute chart. No divergence worth the mention, but we shall see how that goes. All right, looking at IWM. We have on the daily charts, we are still kicking around the daily middle bands, and that closed yesterday at 284.91. It actually closed slightly above it at 285.02. Is that a break above? Not really. Is it closed on it? But it is suggesting we might see a break above today, or certainly tomorrow. In terms of the hourly charts, no current divergence. In terms of IWM, kind of looks like a bull flag forming. We shall see. We did have an original double top here, but we haven't had anything succeed it. We'll see. All right, looking at DAX, I'm still wondering about a possible retest of the high, but obviously we've spent a couple of days below the daily middle band. We are pretty close to the 200 DMA and the 50 DMA, which may well be decent support. In terms of Nikkei, no current divergence. Testing the daily middle band as support, wondering about a test of this rising support trend line here in the 63,000 area. We'll see how that goes. All right, great. Let's have a look at DX. Now, DX, we've been seeing a bit of a pullback here. I'm leaning towards the upside here, having broken out of this range, and I'm thinking we will be resuming that soon. We had a 60-minute sell signal. That's now made the possible near miss target. And Euro, we had a buy signal. That made the full target. GBP USD, we had a buy signal. That made the full target. USD JPY is creeping its way up. It's gone past the first double bottom resistance. The main target really is a retest of this high here in about the 160.70 area, and we're getting pretty close to that. I think we'll reach it. My comments previously, I would remind you about the possibility that the Bank of Japan will intervene when it gets up to this level, which of course it's done before, notably here. At the retest of this high at this high that we are retesting at the moment. USD CAD, I'm kind of leaning towards the downside here. We had a little double top here, which failed back up into the high. We've now got a larger potential double top, but this is a very nice rising megaphone. And while this lasts, I'm leaning towards the next big move, taking this down to the 1.38. 55 area. So, and this rising support trend line. This is a very nice rising mega fan. I'm going to be respecting that as long as it lasts. Australian dollar has broken down from head and shoulders with a target in the 68.75 area and has made a lower low. Most of this, apart from CAD, this is all leaning towards dollar strength. And NZ's broken down for a double top. That hasn't made lower lows within that yet. We shall see. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. And looking at the US dollar, no current divergence at the moment. It looks like we're heading back into the retest of this high here at 164. And when we get there, that would suggest that we are going to start heading up towards the larger double bottom target, which is in the 104.5572 to 105.239 range. I've been talking about this for months, and I still think that's got a pretty good shot. Bigger picture, we've got a very nice looking bull flag setting up a move to a retest at 114.79. You can see how nice that is on the weekly chart. It's a peach. Doesn't mean it's going to make target. Doesn't mean it's going to break up. But I think it's got a shot. So watching to see that get up to the next level and see whether it can get higher than that. We've got matching big bear flags on EURUSD and GBP/USD in the short term. No current divergence on EURUSD. We've got a nice looking double top that's already broken down, and we may well resume that downtrend. GBP/USD, no current divergence, nice looking double top which hasn't broken down yet. And the next obvious target for this, given the overall pretty decent looking rising wedge, would be wedge support currently in about the 1.312 area. Looking at USD/JPY, I'm looking overall for a test of 162. Japanese central bank intervention permitting. So I'd be looking for that as and when dollar makes a decent move up. No current meaningful divergence, very little bit of negative divergence here on the RSI 5. USD CAD, if we see a big move up on the dollar, I'd be looking for a move up into this resistance level in the 1.47 to 1.48 area. Looking at the daily chart, we've got a weak RSI 5 sell signal fixed, which hasn't quite failed yet, but might well. Australian dollar. Basically, we just got a little double top here, and I'm wondering whether that's going to play out. No divergence on the daily. NZUSD, we broke up from this triangle, and we are seeing what will happen here. I've got a potential little double top here, which is the one that's breaking down on the hourly chart. That would have a target, basically to retest this low here at 56.83. All right, great. Let's have a look at bonds. Okay, bonds, we had a little buy signal here that's reached a possible near miss target. We had the same on ZN. Bigger picture, we've got a double top which is broken down here with a target in the 110.07 to 110.16 range, and on ZN we've got a head and shoulders which is broken down with a target in the 108.19 area. I'm expecting to see, now that we might need to go a little higher to make the full targets, but I'm expecting to see those start delivering to the downside soon. Bigger picture, on TYX, of course, we've got an IHS which has formed and is starting to break up slightly, and on TNX, we've got a big IHS which is still forming. On the daily chart, no current divergence. Back testing the daily middle band at the moment on yields. If it can get over that, then that opens the way to the downside on ZB and ZN. Looking at TNX, nice looking triangle. It has broken up, and I'm expecting to see some follow through soon. On the daily chart, no current divergence. On the hourly chart, we had a possible RSI 5 sell signal brewing, and that's made the possible near miss target. Looking at FVX, nice looking triangle there, waiting for that to follow through to the upside on 5-year bond yields. On TLT, no, the pattern setup here is more ambiguous on the bigger picture. We've still got a triangle here. That triangle hasn't broken down yet. Once that breaks down, I'd be treating this basically as a bear flag, looking for a target of 73.66. Hourly chart, no current divergence. This could be a bull flag forming. I'm not really seeing a strong pattern here. Overall, could we be forming an IHS here? Yes. Do I think we are? No. But obviously, best to be aware of these things. All right, great. Let's have a look at oil. Now, oil, I was saying on Friday that because the inverted head and shoulders inverted head and shoulder patterns had failed, I was expecting to see a retest of the low, and we saw that retest of the low yesterday. This has set up potential level bottoms, of course. I'm overall still very bullish on oil. There will be an oil shortage which starts biting in the next few weeks. When? It's hard to say. But until then, I'm really not expecting to see more downside. And actually, in terms of Brent crude, my understanding is that on the cash on the barrel head in the Middle East at the moment, if you're paying cash for it rather than buying the futures, is between 140 and 160 dollars a barrel. That is a huge difference from what we're looking at on the futures here. I think the futures are mispricing badly. I'm expecting, as this Iran conflict drags on, it's been going basically for 15 weeks now. As it continues to drag on, we continue not to see a deal, despite Trump having announced that the Iranians were desperate for a deal, and a deal was a very short time away, 2 or 3 days. So apparently he's announced that about 38 times in the last few months, but obviously it hasn't been true in any of those occasions so far. He is unembarrassed and still claiming the same. We will see how that goes. I'm hoping there is a decent floor for this in the 90 area, and that this is a double bottom and we can finally start going up. We'll see how that goes. On CL, same thing. IHS, it failed. We went back, we retested the lows, we got a potential larger double bottom. On HO, we haven't quite retested the low yet, and I've got to say, I am wondering whether this is a little bear flag forming. I'll show you, just looking at the Brent hourly chart. Hang on, wait a second. And let's look at the 15-minute chart. Now here, I've drawn in the potential double bottom, but I've also, if you look at the price action here, I am wondering whether this might be a bear flag, setting up a retest of this low to set up a second small double bottom, basically set up a nested double bottom to take this higher. I am wondering about this low retest. We will see. All right, let's have a look at RBOB. RBOB, having uncertainly been looking like a bear flag, this has actually retested the low, and we've set up a potential double bottom here too. I'm watching to see whether that works out. NG has now pretty much made the buy signal target. We're testing the weekly pivot, waiting to see if we break up. If we don't, then I'm looking for a test of this rising support trend line currently in the 3.03 area. All right, looking at that on the bigger picture chart, I'm sad to report that I think, but mainly because these things are things that we're looking at here that I've been using as a reference tool are kind of embarrassing. I think the Trump administration is talking about regulating Polymarket and others to eliminate all of their betting on things other than sports. That would be sad news, because actually you get some very interesting indicators on prospects of winning congressional elections and individual things of interest of all sorts. But also, I've been watching every day on the odds of straightforward moves, traffic returns to normal by the end of June. Obviously, on deal optimism, that reached 59%. It's now down to 9%. But I'm going to be switching over fairly soon to the July 31 ones, because obviously we're getting pretty close to the end of June. So I've got that now at 28%, which is not particularly high. And I think Trump would rather not see predictions like this, because it interrupts his narrative. So, but we've still got those for now, and I'll be watching those while they are available. So let's have a quick look at trade through the straightforward moves. We have essentially nothing. Basically the same as it's been since the beginning of March, and really we're coming up to March, April, May. We're coming up to 3.5 months. This has been closed, and there's no prospect, realistically, of that opening up soon. I mean, it's possible that Trump could actually be telling the truth about the deal this time, but he's talked a lot about deals, an awful lot, and nothing has happened. Okay, bigger picture. We do have big topping patterns here on the oils. I've been largely ignoring these because I really don't think there's any chance they're going to play out. But this looks like a bullish triangle, and we made it back to the triangle support, which has just strengthened it so far. So I'm liking support here. Brent, we got a potential large double top here. Chances of playing it this breaking down possible, playing out almost zero. We will see, but I'm really not rating the chances of this playing out in the slightest. I think we've got a good chance of forming a double bottom here, but I was hoping to see some positive divergence on the daily chart, and we've not seen that. Do we have that on the W tick chart? We don't. Not going to get any support from that direction, although these have not been particularly common at significant lows, so we shall see. Heating oil, big on the upside. Brent still has an open target up at 134.91. I'm thinking it might retest 147.50 and probably will. WTIC, we've still got an open target up at a flag target at 126.42 and an older target back up at a retest of this high here at 147.27, which I think, again, in time will be made. On heating oil, obviously we made all-time highs already, so that's not valid. In terms of signals, we haven't really got anything. We've got a pretty decent-looking consolidation bullish triangle here too. On gas oil, we haven't reached the target at a flag target at a retest of this high here at 412 yet, but I think we're probably going to. In terms of the daily chart, we've actually got no, it's not actually. I've marked it as fixed. Sorry, that was absent-minded of me. Or we had gone up during the day, and I marked it up during the day when we hadn't finished the candle. But this is a possible RSI 5 bicycle break, and again we've got another little potential level bottom, although it's smaller than the others. In terms of natural gas, we are still kicking around testing the weekly middle band here. And that's at 3.48, and I'm not expecting it to break over, but it does change the game short term if it does break over. We've got an RSI 5 sell signal fixed here on the daily chart, which is suggesting to me that we're about to see another move down. This rally, which topped out at the 200 DMA, is probably over. All right, great. Let's have a look at the precious metals. Okay, GC. We have gone lower. I was talking about a retest of this low here, and we pretty much made it. I think we might actually have made it. We had a 60-minute buy signal, it failed, and we've got a 60-minute buy signal, possible new 60-minute buy signal, which is brewing. I'm wondering about support here. I did see a note from Bar Chart yesterday that gold had gone into bear market territory because it has now dropped over 20% from the all-time high. Obviously, this is a low retest. Obviously, it had done that already. So I don't know why they mentioned that. I don't think this is of any great significance. I think we may be forming a large double bottom here, and I think this is an area from which I think we may well go higher. It doesn't have to, but there's a pretty good chance it will. In terms of silver, we haven't quite made it back to the lows here, and we may need to. I've got that in about the 61.50 area. We've got a 6-minute buy signal fixed, and if we didn't already have one, another one would have fixed here. So we're getting a fair amount of positive divergence here. Palladium, wondering about bottoming action. Platinum, wondering about bottoming action. HG, we've got a nice looking nested double top here, and we're waiting to see whether that's going to deliver. I'm optimistic. I think equities are finding a high, but I think we're not in a process we're going to see big declines now. I think it's going to take more time. We had a candidate high about 3 weeks ago. We have gone up from there, and we found another potential candidate high. We'll see whether this one holds. But I think the odds of an oil squeeze starting in the next couple of weeks, well, every week that goes past, those odds increase. It's taken longer than I expected, but I think it is going to be coming. All right, in terms of gold, we've got very nice looking bull flag channel still, and when we retest this low, we'll have a slightly oversized, but pretty decent looking potential level bottom. Waiting to see if that delivers, but I still love this bull flag channel. It's still very, very nice. In terms of silver, wondering about a retest of this low here. That again could set up a very nice looking potential level bottom. Watching to see if we get some positive divergence on the daily RSI 5, which we could on gold as well with a rally, and then a retest. RSI 5 buy signal here on the daily has also failed. In terms of palladium, we've gone very slightly through my ideal wedge support, but this is still looking pretty damn nice. In terms of platinum, we made it down to my possible wedge support as well. Again, this is the nicest trend line. I'm thinking these may be bullish underthrows. In terms of copper, we've got a weak RSI 14 sell signal fixed, and we've got a very nice looking double top, which is a nested double top because it's part of this larger double top. As and when we see a serious turn in equities, I'm thinking this has a very good chance of playing out, and I'll probably be shorting copper myself. In terms of GDX, we've seen some more downside. I'm not really looking for an awful lot more of that. There's not much reason to think this is going down a lot lower, but I am wondering if we might reach the support level here in the 67.5 area. GDXJ, I'm sorry, on GDX on the hourly charts, possible RSI 5 buy signal brewing. So that might be fixed already. It is fixed already. In terms of the hourly chart and GDXJ, positive divergence on both RSI 14 and RSI 5. In terms of targets below, we could reach this support level here in the 85 area, but there's no particular reason that it needs to. We shall see. All right, great. Let's have a look at the other commodities. Now, KC. KC is continuing downwards. I'm wondering about a rally here. We've got a little level bottom here, which could get us back up into maybe the 259 area. We'll see whether that delivers. On SB, expecting to see a resumption of the downtrend here. Really short term, I'm wondering about a retest of this low here. Bigger picture, we may be still in rally mode. CC, I'm still wondering about a test of this head and shoulder target in the 35.19 area. Number has gone a bit higher, and this could be a flag. Went through my triangle resistance on the bigger picture, I noticed. CT, still wondering about a bull flag. Weak 6-minute buy signal is fixed and hasn't delivered anything so far. Wheat, we had a buy signal that's now reached the full target. We've got a little IHS which broke up here. I've got a target for that in about the 604 area. A bit too small to put on the chart, really, but nonetheless, that's the target area. On corn, looks like well, it's a nice looking decline. 60-minute buy signal has now reached the possible near miss target. On soy, we're reaching the possible near miss target on the 60-minute buy signal there. On ZL, we've seen a bit of a pullback here. We could be forming a head and shoulders. Ideal right shoulder high would be in the 77 area. On live cattle, we had a head and shoulders. It broke down. It failed. I'm looking for a retest of this high here in the 251.5 area. On HE, we're continuing down at the moment. So still got a 60-minute buy signal fixed, but I'm wondering if that might fail today. All right, great. Let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. And on coffee, bigger picture, we're just continuing down at the moment. Do we have any positive divergence on the weekly chart? No. On the daily chart, we haven't got any positive divergence either. We could be forming some sort of a falling wedge here, but I'm not seeing a really obvious resistance trend line. Support trend line for that at the moment. Sugar, we've still got a big picture target down in the 9 area, but I'm really liking the rally here. It's a very nice rising wedge. I am wondering whether we're going to retest the low here to set up the second low of a double bottom. I am a little concerned that we haven't broken up over this wedge resistance yet. So that does open the target potential to get down to the wedge support, which I've got currently in about the 12.3 to 12.4 area. Looking at the daily chart, no current divergence. We will see. But I think there's a compelling argument for a retest of this low here in the 13.34 area to set up the second low of a double bottom. Looking at cocoa, cocoa, we've been seeing a bit of a rally here. I think that may be failing. We've got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed on the daily. This could be a little bull flag forming or triangle forming. But I'm thinking the lean is probably to the downside. Looking at lumber, bigger picture, we've still got a bearish setup here. Bear flag that's been taking 3.5 years to form. Nice looking double top, which broke down with a target. Both of those targets basically in the 352.50 area. In the short term, we broke over the possible triangle resistance I was looking at. Could we be retesting this high, set up the second high of a double top? Bit large, possibly. We'll see. Looking at cotton, cotton broke up from the double bottom and made target. We've been pulling back. I'm thinking we've probably got more upside to come, but we'll see. On the daily chart, we've got a weak RSI 14 sell signal that's fixed and hasn't made the possible near miss target yet. On wheat, we've got a weekly RSI 14 sell signal fixed, which is a bit of a concern. We're trying to break below the weekly middle band, which is kind of the opposite direction I'd like to see this going. We've got a double bottom that's formed on the breakout of 617.25, has target range in the 739 to 742 area. There is a possibility, of course, that the double bottom is broken up and is now going to fail. On the wheat chart, no current divergence. We'll see. On corn, we've got a very nice looking double bottom here, which we're getting further away from breaking down from at the moment. Strong downtrend here, no current positive divergence. Soybeans, we're actually forming a nicer potential inverted head and shoulder right shoulder here, but this would be the ideal low pretty much in the area we're in now. I wouldn't like to see it go lower. On the daily chart, no current divergence. All of these could generate some buy signals with a bit of a rally and then a low retest. All right, great. Let's have a quick look at crypto, where, in a moment. Okay, now obviously on Sunday we'd already made all the flag targets. How are we looking since? Bear with me. There you go. All right, still looks like a potential level bottom here. No current positive divergence on the weekly. No current positive divergence on the daily, although we could get some of that by retesting the low. In terms of the 60-minute chart, no current positive divergence, but we could set up an hourly buy signal by retesting, again, the low. In terms of the shorter term setup here, not seeing an obvious pattern until we see a low retest. All right, looking at Solana. Solana, we've got on the weekly chart a bit of a rally off the lows, but it's not a great deal. In terms of daily chart, we can set up positive divergence on both RSI 14 and RSI 5 with a retest to the low, and we may well get that. On the hourly chart, we're not going to be setting up any divergence there. In terms of a short-term pattern here, not really going to get one unless we see a retest this low, which is not far away. All right, looking at Ethereum, seeing a little bit of a rally from the low as well. In terms of the daily chart, if we retest the low, we can set up both positive divergence on the RSI 14 and the RSI 5. On the hourly chart, no current divergence. Nice looking overall double bottom. I'd like to see some positive divergence and then a larger rally, ideally. We shall see. Although I'm not thinking this is a bear market low, and I'm thinking this likely goes lower later. All right, great. In that case, I think that's a wrap. Everyone take care, and I'll catch you guys again on Sunday. Cheers.